My father didn't raise his voice when he said it. He didn't need to. Your schooling is suspended until you apologize to Noah. The knife in my hand stopped mid-air. Across the table, my brother tried and failed to hide the smirk spreading slowly across his face. My mother looked away, her breathing uneven, waiting for me to break first, but I didn't. I set the knife down, smoothed a strand of hair behind my ear, and let the silence settle like dust. "All right," I said. For a moment, no one moved. They thought that was surrender, but it wasn't. My name is Lucia Hale, and I grew up in a house where silence traveled faster than sound, where a single look decided who mattered and who didn't. From the outside, we were the kind of family people called put together. Inside, everything tilted around one person, my younger brother, Noah Hale. My father, Grant Hale, preferred order over fairness. He liked schedules, timetables, rules printed on the fridge. My mother, Elise Hale, preferred peace over truth. She worried about emotions the way other people worried about cracked windows, patching everything quickly, even if the patch never held. I learned my role early, not through punishments, not through shouting, but through 1,000 tiny moments that settled into a quiet script. When I was 10, Grant taught Noah how to ride a bike in the cul-de-sac. I waited on the curb with my own helmet fingers curled around the straps. Noah's bike fell twice. Mine never left the yard. Grant said, "We'll get to you next weekend." I nodded. The weekend never came. At 12, Elise bought Noah a new jacket for picture day. She handed me one of her old scarves and said it looked grown up on me. I wore it even though it smelled faintly of detergent and lavender. Later, when Noah stained his sleeve with juice, Elise cried. When I ripped the scarf on the bus, she didn't notice. Small things. Forgettable things. Except they never really left. By the time I was 14, I had become the designated fixer. When Noah forgot his project, I brought mine for him to copy. When he fell behind in science, I stayed up explaining experiments while he scrolled on his phone. Grant praised him for catching up, said he had potential. My contribution dissolved quietly in the background, like steam disappearing from a mirror. The first time I saw the cost of this imbalance clearly was the afternoon I stayed after school for debate practice. I'd just been told I would lead the team for the regional round. I remember feeling almost light walking toward the parking lot. Then I saw Grant's car pull up. Not for me, for Noah. He ran out of the building crying, claiming someone had picked on him. Grant left the engine running and didn't even glance in my direction. I stood there, trophy-shaped hope cooling in my hands, watching the car pull away without me. But the moment that defined everything happened one winter evening in the school garage. The yellow light flickered above us as Noah cornered a younger student, Ryan, from my math class, pressing him against a concrete pillar. I froze for a second, watching the way fear reshaped Ryan's face. When Noah shoved him hard enough to make him fall, I stepped forward out of instinct. Later at home, Elise brushed it off as boys being boys. Grant warned me not to make a scene. And Noah. He smiled like nothing had happened. That was when the script finally became clear Noah caused the damage. I carried the responsibility. And in our house, that wasn't going to change. The night it all snapped into place wasn't loud. It never is not in my family. We were halfway through dinner when my father, Grant, wiped his mouth with the edge of his napkin and spoke like he was announcing a policy update. "You'll stand on the auditorium stage tomorrow and apologize to Noah," he said. School-wide. Clear and simple. Across the table, my brother, Noah. My younger brother, the family's chosen center, kept his eyes down, but the smirk tugging at his mouth gave him away. My mother, Elise, folded her hands like she was bracing for impact. I didn't speak at first. I let the words settle heavy and familiar. They didn't ask what happened. They didn't mention the footage. They didn't care that the garage camera caught Noah shoving a smaller student, Ryan, the quiet sophomore from my math class, so hard he hit the concrete pillar. "Family stays together," Elise murmured, voice trembling in that way she used when guilt was supposed to do the work for her. "It's simple," Grant added. One apology and this mess disappears. Except it wasn't simple. It never had been. They wanted me to rewrite the truth publicly, to stand under the stage lights and say their golden boy had merely defended himself, because that version of the story kept the house in balance, because my dignity was worth less than Noah's image. "So you want me to lie?" I said quietly. Grant shook his head. "I want you to be responsible." Responsible. That word had followed me since childhood, flexible enough to twist into anything they needed from me. Noah finally looked up, eyes bright with expectation. Just do it, Lucia. It's not that deep. It was strange how calm everything felt in that moment. The clatter of forks, the faint hum of the kitchen light, the smell of roasted vegetables cooling on the table. I couldn't feel anger, only clarity. I inhaled slowly, smoothed a strand of hair behind my ear, a habit I'd never fully broken, and felt the shift happen inside me. Small, precise, final. "All right," I said. The word hit the table like a dropped coin. Noah's smirk twitched. Elise blinked. Grant opened his mouth to lecture, but nothing came out. They thought they'd won. They thought that single word meant surrender. They didn't realize it was the moment I stopped playing the role they wrote for me. I went upstairs without another word. No slammed doors, no dramatic footsteps. Just the soft click of wood touching wood as my bedroom door closed behind me. It was the quietest boundary I had ever drawn so quiet, they didn't even hear it. I stood there for a long moment, letting the silence settle. The house breathed unevenly downstairs, voices muffled into a low, chaotic hum. I didn't listen. I walked to my desk, opened my laptop, and woke the screen. Light spilled across my room, clean and steady, like a new beginning waiting to be typed into existence. I opened a blank notes document and started listing what I needed. Transcript, letters, video file, transfer requirements, timeline. Typing steadied my pulse. Every click was a choice I hadn't been allowed to make before. I pulled my 2 suitcases from under the bed, one for clothes, one for every document that proved I had built something beyond this house. Debate medals, awards, certificates, the leadership patches I'd stitched onto jackets that still carried the faint smell of auditorium dust. I laid everything on the carpet in neat rows. Organizing them felt like reclaiming pieces of myself one by one. The hallway outside creaked once. Someone paused, then walked away. I didn't open the door. Instead, I sent a single text to the only person who had never made me feel small. "Maya, it's happening." Her reply came instantly, even at that hour. "Tell me what you need." I didn't know how to explain it, the feeling of a door opening inside me instead of closing, but I typed the next steps anyway. She sent instructions, links, reminders, each one arriving like a small beacon in the dark. After midnight, I slipped downstairs to the kitchen, moving quietly over the cold tile. I opened the drawer where we kept the shared printer paper, took a small stack, and walked back up without turning on a single hallway light. The house was still awake enough to notice the wrong sound. I gave it nothing. Back in my room, I downloaded the garage footage from the school portal. Ryan's frightened eyes, Noah's fist the moment he shoved him toward the pillar. The camera didn't lie, even if my family needed me to. I saved it twice, once to my drive, once under a coded name in a hidden folder. Not to expose Noah, not to hurt him, but because truth to me had become a form of survival. Around 2 a.m, my laptop pinged. Ms. Rivera, my guidance counselor, had replied. "Lucia, if you're awake, send me your draft. I'll review it now. Don't wait." Her message wasn't warm. It wasn't comforting. It was better than that. It was solid, practical support, the kind I'd never gotten from inside my own house. I finished the essay, each sentence a steady reclamation of my story, and hit send. While waiting for her response, I packed my backpack with files I'd need the next day, sealed envelopes, forms I'd pre-signed, and the printouts for my transfer application. I checked them 3 times, tapping the corners to align them perfectly. Organization made everything feel containable. The clock read 2:43 a.m. My room felt cold, but in a way that sharpened my senses instead of numbing them. Then the reply came. "Looks excellent. I'll finalize the recommendation tonight. Stay focused. You're close." I exhaled. I hadn't realized I'd been holding my breath. By dawn, my room looked like an evidence board of my own future. 2 suitcases zipped and waiting, clothes folded, documents arranged in a precise grid across my desk. My laptop closed charger wrapped neatly around its block. My notebook open to a bulleted list freshly checked off. When the house finally went quiet again, I slipped my way through the morning routine: shower jeans, sweater shoes, every movement deliberate. Not rushing, not hiding, just steady. I walked to the school early, long before the usual crush of students filled the halls. The air outside was cool, almost metallic. The sky was still pink around the edges. I pulled my hair into a loose tie, feeling the slight tremor of anticipation run through my fingers. My locker sat halfway down the east hall, right where the early light from the courtyard windows hit the metal. I opened it and looked at the life I'd kept inside textbooks lined up evenly, photo strip from the debate team party, a cracked mug Maya had given me with a fading slogan about perseverance. One by one, I took everything out. Books stacked neatly in my backpack, personal items tucked into a separate tote. The photo strip folded carefully and slipped into my notebook. When the locker was completely empty, the metal walls echoed softly like a breath released after being held too long. I tore the transfer approval page from my folder, placed a small piece of tape at the top, and left it hanging inside a quiet declaration. By the time the first bell rang, I was already walking away from it all. Students started trickling into the hall, noise rising like a tide behind me. I didn't turn back. The plan was in motion. Everything was filed. Everything was clean. Everything was mine. As I stepped outside into the crisp morning air, the final thought came to me quietly, like a truth that had been waiting years to be spoken. This time, I wouldn't be the one holding their world together. This time, I would build my own. By the next morning, the school was awake in full-volume lockers, slamming sneakers squeaking on polished floors, voices echoing as if the building itself hadn't slept. I walked in without hurry, the cold air still clinging to my sleeves. My hair was pulled back, my steps measured. Nothing in my face showed what was about to unfold. Noah was already leaning against his locker when I rounded the corner. My younger brother, so used to being the gravity everyone else bent toward, stood with his arms crossed, smirk fixed like a signature. Well, he said loud enough for nearby students to hear. Look who finally showed up. Ready to rehearse your apology? I didn't stop. I didn't even look at him. I walked straight to my locker, spun the dial, and pulled it open. His smirk cracked instantly. The locker was empty. Every shelf, every hook, every inch. Only the transfer approval form, taped neatly to the metal back, fluttered once in the draft from the hallway vent. I lifted my backpack onto my shoulder and closed the locker door gently, letting the latch click into place. Behind me, a gasp. A whispered, "Is she transferring?" Then Noah's voice, sharp and cracking. "Lucia, what did you do?" I kept walking. He caught up, grabbing my arm in panic. "Please tell me you haven't posted it." His voice trembled. "Please, tell me you didn't." Dozens of eyes turned toward us. A few phones lifted. Noah had never looked so undone. I slipped my arm free with a simple twist, the hall going quiet for one suspended breath. Posted what I asked. He swallowed hard. The application. The transfer. Whatever, just tell me it's not final. But it was, and he knew it. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. I walked toward the main office, my steps steady, while his stumbled behind me in frantic echoes. Inside, Principal Alden Fair, measured and relentlessly factual, was already at his desk. Ms. Rivera, my counselor, stood beside him, holding a thick envelope with a gold seal. When she saw me, she nodded once. Not encouragement, confirmation. I handed her the final printed forms. She checked them signed where needed and passed them to Mr. Alden. He read the top page aloud, voice carrying in the small office. Full merit scholarship, boarding placement approved, transfer effective immediately. Behind me, someone inhaled sharply. I didn't need to turn to know it was Noah. A moment later, the office door flew open and my parents stepped in. Grant's tie was crooked, something I had never seen in my life. Elise looked like she hadn't slept at all, eyes, red fingers trembling around her phone. "What is happening?" Grant demanded. I didn't move. Ms. Rivera placed the contract on the desk where he could see it. "It's a done deal," she said calmly. Lucia met every requirement. The academy confirmed her placement last night. Grant's face hardened. "Lucia, we didn't approve this. Mr. Alden spoke before I could. Your approval wasn't required." Silence. The kind that drops like a stone. Then my phone buzzed. I put it on speaker. "Good morning, Lucia." It was Mr. Rowan, the academy's representative, steady and composed. I'm calling to confirm the transport for tomorrow. 7 a.m. sharp, you'll be escorted to campus. Everything is finalized. Grant stepped forward. You can't just take my daughter, Mr. Rowan interrupted Tone, professional but immovable. She is a nearly 18-year-old scholarship student. This transition is entirely within policy. Any interference will be documented. The room went still. Noah broke first. Dad, don't. His voice sounded young. Too young. It's already done. Elise covered her mouth tears sliding silently. I powered off the call, slipped the phone into my pocket, and turned toward the doorway. Students had gathered outside, watching whispering, widening the hallway to let me pass. I didn't look back, not at my parents, not at Noah, not at the life they expected me to keep stitching together. As I stepped into the light of the hallway, the only sound was the soft echo of my footsteps, clean, unhurried final. The next morning, the air in Washington, D.C. felt different, crisp, steady, untouched by anything that came before it. The shuttle dropped me at the gates of the academy just as the sun lifted over the skyline, turning the glass buildings a soft gold. I stepped out with one suitcase in each hand, the wheels clicking lightly against the pavement. No shouting, no demands, no rules taped to the fridge, just space. Inside the dorm, the hallways smelled faintly of fresh paint and linen detergent. My new room was small, bright and quiet in a way that didn't feel like punishment. I set my bags down, opened the window, and let the early air pour in. For the first time in years, my lungs filled without resistance. Classes started quickly debate political theory research labs. Here, no one waited for me to fail or shrink. When I raised my hand, people listened. When I spoke, no one rolled their eyes at the sound of my voice. The room didn't tilt around a golden boy. It held steady. In the library that afternoon, the light filtered through tall windows and spread across the long wooden tables like a patient kind of warmth. I laid out my notes, clicked my pen twice, and felt the quiet surround me. Not the heavy, suffocating silence of home. This one felt earned, chosen. My phone buzzed once in my pocket. A Maryland area code. I let it ring. It stopped. Then another. Then silence. I turned the phone over and powered it off. After dinner, I took a walk along the campus path lined with small lamps that flickered like fireflies. I passed a group of students laughing a pair, studying under a tree, someone jogging with earbuds in. Ordinary scenes, gentle scenes. A life that didn't require me to break myself in half just to keep peace. When I returned to my room, the desk lamp cast a soft glow across my empty notebook. I sat down, smoothing the pages, with my palm feeling the steadiness in my fingertips. The last 24 hours had rewritten the shape of my world, not with noise, not with confrontation, but with a quiet, decisive shift. I wasn't running from them. I was running toward myself, toward a life that finally felt like mine. Some families teach you loyalty. Mine taught me limits. The day they tried to suspend my future was the day I posted my exit quietly, cleanly, without looking back. Doors don't always close with slammed wood. Sometimes they close with a breath, a decision, a single step forward. And once they do, you learn that freedom doesn't make noise. If this story resonated with you, stay for the next one. There's more to tell.